Hello everyone. So I think it's safe to say that Joker is a divisive film. There are some people upholding it as a masterclass in contemporary filmmaking, and there are some others for scrutinising the film for its portrayal of violence, as well as people in the middle who just think the film's mediocre and don't see the film impactful as people on both sides of the spectrum do. And if I set my own observations and perspectives on the film aside, the one reason I am so glad this film was made is the split in the mass audience it is made. See, when a film like Joker strives to have a very vivid thematic message, it does so in a way that strongly focuses on a subject matter in a very specific style. It brings very interesting discourse about the art of filmmaking and storytelling in general. So not only do I think this film was a great film, but because it has a unique narrative flair to it, I think it is great for discussion outside the film. Unlike more safe and innocuous blockbuster action movies where there isn't really much of a debate to be had besides the writing and general filmmaking on a mechanical level, Todd Phillips' Joker has really brought out some very assertive opinions and criticisms in the YouTuber and reviewers that I have been following for a while now, and never have I disagreed with so many of them at once. I mean, sure, most of them think the movie was of significant quality, but a lot of their criticisms are something I would have to disagree with. Due to the way Joker is daring, different, and thematically and narratively layered, there are a lot of different angles and perspectives I am hearing with this film, and I feel that some of them are missing the point of what Joker is trying to say and do. So without further ado, I will delve into them. Also, I will be going into spoilers for Joker, so if you have not seen this movie yet, do not continue with this video. Also, the last two of these examples of criticisms are coming from YMS, aka Adam from Your Movie Sucks, but I do know that other critics have said these things as well. The first one is the implication that Joker is glorifying and glamorizing the violence committed by anarchists, such as Arthur Fleck, and what he becomes by the end of the film. Some people have said that the film paints the Joker as a hero, and presents him as a sympathetic character all the way through, and that when the Joker shoots Murray on the late night show, that was supposed to be a call to appraise the character. They have also implied that the film glorifies mental health in some capacity. If you personally haven't heard people say this, then I know it's hard to believe, but these people are out there. The issue I have with this claim is that they are confusing and blurring the line between depicting something and condoning something. There is a very fine difference between glorifying a societal issue and just addressing it and showing it without sugarcoating it and straying away from the subject matter. Joker presents us with a man who is a victim of the city of Gotham's descent as a result of his mental health care and medication being stripped away from him, because in this story, the governing bodies in Gotham are neglecting the lower class citizens. All it shows is how society can sometimes fail a person, and if they turn to madness and develop a dangerous psychosis, it can be traced back as a byproduct of the issues in society. In terms of sympathy, sure, from the start of the film, it wants you to sympathise with Arthur. However, it assumes that you as the intelligible viewer will know when to stop sympathising with him, such as when, in the train scene, he kills the three Wall Street guys. For me personally, the first one was more or less justified. I mean, it was kind of understandable, as he was getting beaten to a pulp. He shot the assailant as self-defense, but when he shoots the third man, who is no longer a threat to him and is running away, he murders him in cold blood anyway. That is the point where I stop sympathising with him. This breaking point of sympathy may vary depending on the viewer, but nevertheless, I don't think we need the director to suddenly appear on the screen and explain when you should stop sympathising with him. From the moment you do stop, the film becomes a character study first and foremost. Arthur is not the hero of this film, he is just the protagonist. There is a difference between the two that I think some people are completely missing, and they fail to understand it. And so by virtue of him being the main character and the focal point of a Hollywood movie, the filmmakers are condoning and glorifying the horrific and heinous acts the character does? No, I don't think so. But this is of course absolute dribble. In terms of depicting the violence, there are two sides of the same coin. There is a side that is hiding the violence so that the film is family friendly. As a result, even if physically lethal and mortal things happen on screen that should and would be bloody in reality, a typical PG-13 movie would not show it, and therefore defy logic essentially. Corridor Digital's R-rated edit of a scene from Captain America Civil War perfectly demonstrates this. The other side is where you would find realism in storytelling. In the case of the Joker, the film is based in reality, which means if someone gets shot in the head, yeah, you're going to see some stuff, put it that way. After all, the plot is following an oppressed member of society who is descending into madness and becoming unhinged. So in universe, it just makes sense that violence will play a part in an R-rated take of this story in its nature. No two sides of this coin are inherently bad. I could go on a tangent on why I don't like the PG-13 approach, but I won't. All I'll say is depicting violence as it is in the real world is not glorifying anything from face value. It is just done to reinforce the style that the director is gunning for, which is to mirror some version of the real world we live in, not process it through some filter. The second common critique I've heard is regarding the twist and revelation in the film that Arthur's relationship with that woman down the hall was all in his head, and he was imagining it. People have criticised and outright ridiculed this aspect of the film as being predictable, unnecessary, and tangential to the film's plot and pacing. The quick-cutting flashbacks that follow this reveal have been criticised as unnecessary and deemed gratuitous. Here is why I fundamentally disagree with this claim. The purpose of this twist was not to have it be unpredictable and to fool the audience into believing it was real. The purpose of this twist was to solidify the point in the film that Arthur has absolutely nothing to lose. In a way, he loses his girlfriend in the sense of his mind giving up on that fantasy. Arthur's hallucinations and fantasies are made to appear so outlandish and unlikely that I think it was done to convey how insane and derailed this man is. Aside from a quick montage scene to display Arthur's affection for this fabricated relationship he summoned in his head, it does not pull focus from the focal point of the film. Arthur uses his relationship as a coping mechanism for the emotional hardships he suffers throughout the film along the way. All the relationship does is complement the events that take place in the film. His girlfriend comforts him through the turmoil, so when it's revealed that it was all in his head, you realise how mentally broken this man is. It is an emotional and visceral gut punch that would not have been there without this dynamic. If from your personal experience you did not see this coming, then that's just icing on the cake, and the scene must have been more impactful for you in turn. Immediately after this twist, the movie cuts through flashbacks of Arthur talking to thin air. The purpose of these flashbacks were not to make sure the audience were getting it. The purpose of them were to show the audience that Arthur wasn't merely, for example, just laid in bed, imagining and pondering what a relationship would be like with this woman. It was by no means just simply a parasocial relationship. Arthur Fleck was actually physically and verbally talking to nothing, not unlike when we see Arthur dancing in his room and complimenting himself early on in the film. When I was watching it, I thought that edit made it ever so more creepy, eerie and horrific. I certainly did not feel like the film was showing a lack of faith in our intelligence. When the woman is startled by Arthur sitting in her house, that was indeed sufficient to convey it to the audience, like people have been saying. The following flashbacks were edited in for a separate reason, to elicit an emotion and inject atmosphere. This is the art of editing. And so, think about it. In this point in the film, he has discovered his mother has lied to him all of his life. He's lost his job and his livelihood. You might have been thinking at this point that he will be fine because he has the moral support of his girlfriend. But with the revelation that he doesn't and never did have a girlfriend, it perfectly transitions us into the third act, where Arthur lets go of his humanity completely, and with nothing else to lose, he arrives at his breaking point and becomes the Joker. This is a final nail in the coffin that pushes Arthur over the line. The third comment I have heard about the Joker is concerning the portrayal and the presence of the Wayne family, and other in-universe references to the world of DC Comics where Joker is set. For some reason there are people having problems with Joker being set, well, in a DC universe. They have a problem with other characters being there from the comics. Why a mess, for example?
For some reason, they just couldn't fucking help themselves but to shoehorn Bruce Wayne into the story. Every single scene where they tried to connect the Joker story with the Wayne family was really annoying and embarrassing. It's so unnecessary and forced. Just feels like a lot of insisted importance when this story would have functioned just fine without it.
His reason for this is purely detached from the film itself. It's as if he just wanted to have Joker be devoid of any other characters from DC whatsoever, because he, for some reason, finds the appearance of them gratuitous, forced, and unnecessary. He claims the story would have functioned just fine without the addition of the Wayne family. Allow me to explain why that is hilariously inaccurate. The reason Thomas Wayne is in this movie is due part to his connection to Arthur Fleck, through mutual acquaintances. Arthur's mother constantly tells that Thomas Wayne will help them out of the poor living conditions they are in, because she claims that they used to be lovers, also strongly implying, or outright telling him, I can't remember really, that Thomas Wayne is his father. Upon investigating if that's true, naturally, Arthur goes to the Wayne family's address, and inadvertently meets Bruce, and then Alfred. He proclaims to be Thomas Wayne's son. They don't believe him. Eventually, he tracks down Thomas Wayne himself and preaches about his blood relation to him, telling him that he is his son. Thomas Wayne bluntly tells him his mother was crazy and hints at the fact that he is actually adopted, and then he gets punched in the face. Arthur then steals the records and uses them to discover that his entire life has been a lie. He feels betrayed by his mother. His life is a tragedy, or as he puts it, a comedy. He kills his mother in the hospital and crosses that line into Joker territory. This is called cause and effect. And if you think about it, if you took Thomas Wayne out of the equation, none of this would happen. Does he want the entire plot and infrastructure and foundations and plot? I've already said plot, you get it. But does he want everything about his film to change? What's his criticism here? Adam says the story would function fine without it. If you took away the reason Arthur does any of the things he does, aside from the Wall Street guys, Unless you mean you think it was embarrassing that this man running for mayor was called Thomas Wayne, but you didn't mind the presence of the man alone. In this case, why does it matter what his name is? Why not just let them call the would-be mayor of Gotham Thomas Wayne as a result of him being in a DC production? After all, whilst he may not be present on screen for a whole lot of the film, he is the film's underlying antagonist. So why not have Arthur have a meaningful and contextual conflict with the film's villain, and have Arthur face off with him in person? This would be like saying, oh, the way Spider-Man Far From Home tries to shoehorn Mysterio in the film was annoying and embarrassing. He calls the dynamic of the killer being inspired by the Joker to kill Bruce Wayne's family lame.
Worse and worse. By the end of it, they reveal that the guy who kills Bruce Wayne's parents was inspired to do it because of the Joker. Holy crap, was that ever lame.
Amazing and narratively compelling. What the fuck are you talking about? La 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 la, shut up. I'm sorry, but say what you will about having ambiguous sequel bait endings in movies, but in this particular circumstance, having a Joker-inspired shooter kill Thomas and Martha Wayne is one of the most effective ways you could glean potential of what is now possible in this universe if this story would continue. I've heard a few other people complain about the subtle references to the DC universe, like the Asylum being Arkham Asylum and things like that. And I'm just like, this is such an inoffensive and inconsequential like inclusion and integration to the film. Like, does it even need to be commented on it? I understand why people are talking about Thomas Wayne being in this film, because he plays a pretty big part in the sequence of events in this film. He's the villain. He's the antagonistic figure for Arthur, so which is why it's just absurd for someone to say the story would have functioned fine without him. Anyway, this is it. Thank you for watching. This was just a little response to the criticisms of Joker that I just don't think make any sense whatsoever in any stretch of the imagination. I think my next video is going to be the first episode of Game to Film. Hopefully. If it takes too long, I'll probably do another video in between it. But yeah, I just wanted to say that. Thank you for watching, see you next time.